I want to make a quick video to talk to you about how to put together your critique essay. Now, this essay is sometimes called a response essay, or a reply essay, or a evaluation. Um, I'm preferring to call it a critique, but all of these essays have two main parts. They're the same essay. It's just that some teachers may use different words to ask you to describe this essay. All of these essays have the first part as a summary of whatever it is that you're dealing with. In this case, it's an article, Program for Love. Now, what I want you to do in this summary is to pretend that I've never read this article. And your job is to summarize it quickly, to mention all of the key ideas, and if there is an overarching thesis or idea, to also mention that. And you need to be fair about this, in the sense that your job here is not to give any of your opinion or your judgment on this, evaluation on this, your thoughts on this. Your job is to represent the article so that if the voices that are in the article were sitting next to you, the people were sitting next to you, they would say after you gave the summary, yes, that's what we said. That was a fair representation of what we said. So you'll need to provide that summary, and then after the summary, you can bring in your opinion, your evaluation, your thoughts about those key ideas. You can agree with them, disagree, explain why. You can expand them, you can apply them, you can extend them, you can exemplify them. You can drift a little bit. You can sort of connect yourself to a key idea and then maybe add some other ideas that are very close to that. Anything to really show that you engaged the text, that you thought about it, that you looked at it in terms of its parts, and that you can discuss it intelligently because you've analyzed it. All right. Now, it would be great, okay, if you started your summary with a sentence that said, in his Chronicle Review article, open quotation marks, Program for Love, close quotation marks, columnist Jeffrey R. Young interviews Sherry Turkle and David Levy about the topic of social relationships and robots, period. Now you can actually use that sentence in your essay. But you see what I did there? Very quickly in one sentence, I gave the author, the publication name, the article's name, the essay's name, and I may have forgotten to mention the date, but I could throw that in there by saying in his June 2011 Chronicle of Education Review. You can check out the publication to see the name, but that's how you would pack that information at the beginning, right? And pack it in, get it into that sentence, give it to the reader, and then this is kind of the he said, she said section of your paper. The summary is all about what they are saying. I would like to see a couple quotes up there. All right, at least two. And then now when you're quoting and you're quoting with a web source that doesn't have page numbers, please count the paragraphs. And white space between the paragraphs indicates a separate paragraph. All right, so even if there's one line and then there's white space and another line underneath it, those lines are considered paragraphs. So start at the top, count the paragraphs, and then when you have a quotation, in parentheses after the quotation, just put PAR period and then 7. Okay, close quotation mark, or PAR period 15. All right. Now, I would also expect you to go on to owl.purdue.edu and to find models that can corroborate what I just said, or you can check me on this by looking at owl.purdue.edu and seeing how they ask you to do in-text citation with paragraphs. All right. Now, after you finish your summary, right, you move into the I say part. I say in terms of you as the author. This is your part to provide your opinion, okay? And I would really prefer you to use the first person pronoun here. I believe, after I read this article, my thoughts on this are, that signals to the reader that this is really your voice. You're owning these thoughts, these opinions. Now, I could ask you to stay away from the first person pronoun, right? The me, the my, the mine, the I, but I see no reason to do that. I believe that that is not a good grammar rule. I believe that if you use it properly, the first person pronoun is incredibly important. Can you imagine trying to go through your day without using the first person pronoun? And again, as I think I've said before, if I just lay out before you 5 or 6 or 10 best, good, you know, um, books written to the general public, nonfiction books written to the general public, I would say 50% of them properly and effectively use the I, the me, the my. So why would I ever, with say to you that's a mistake, right? So in this second part, bring in the first person pronoun so I can hear your voice, right? Now, if you look back, I had you do a discussion assignment where you answered some questions, 5 of them, and then you took one and you put it on the discussion board and you responded to others. Hey, you can take those 5 questions that I had. That's why I gave you that assignment. So now you can take that material and use it here, right, for your evaluation, for your response section. So, you sort of had this essay written already because I asked you to write the summary already. And now I'm asking you to add a second section under the summary where you bring in your thoughts. And you can use the material you wrote concerning those 5 questions, right? Bring it in, arrange it, make it flow, okay? And there's your analysis, right? Now, there is something I didn't touch on in those 5 questions, and you can if there's something I didn't touch, you can bring in that in. I mean, you can add stuff to this. And I also want you to consider in your evaluation something that the author does here, okay? The author being Jeffrey R. Young. Young, refer to him by his last name after you introduce him. Young does not have a voice in the summary, right? But he's doing something that maybe you can comment on in the evaluation that will show your reader, that you really did think carefully about this article. And this is your job as an analyzer, as writing this analysis. Young seems to position Turkle in an ironic pose. He seems to let her say things and then he kind of undercuts it, okay? While not even coming into the essay at all. He doesn't come in and say, here I am, Jeffrey Young, here's what I think. But consider what I'm saying here. Turkle seems to be very concerned that the names of her books get into the article, right? And she says at the beginning that she was interacting with a robot, and the robot was looking at her. But then when someone else came in the room, the robot turns and looks at that other person, and Cherry Turkle says, I felt something in here. I felt something inside. I know what I felt. Young never clarifies that that's love, right? Now, what else could it be? What else could it be? If it might be something like jealousy, because Turkle seems to like the attention, and if the attention shifts to someone else, she might want that attention back. And so that might really also have been what happened. It might not have been love at all. It might have been just this frustration of having lost the attention of something. All right. Now, Turkle will also say, hey, turn your phone off, give yourself some time, away from the digital, interact with real people. It's not good. It's not good to have constant interaction. But then there's something happening in the background, isn't there? There's a bing going on. Now, you read carefully the article, you'll see that. I think it's in the second half of the article. There's this noise that goes off like every minute, okay? And Turkle says, oh, don't worry about the noise. That's just my email. I get like 30 emails a minute. She says something to that effect. I'm getting my facts wrong, but you go look at that, right? And she says, I don't know why they're emailing me. It's not good for people to email that much, and I can never respond to them. Okay. So if that's really the case, then, if I were interviewing her, I would say, well, why don't you turn it off? Or why don't you just get another email account? Or why don't you send this type of thing to spam or something like that, right? In other words, why do you have it on in such that you have an audio alarm whenever it comes in while we're having this interview? Maybe you have this in this way so that you want me to know so many people are trying to talk to you. right? So you actually like that, or you don't want to get rid of it, but yet you don't want to respond to it. So there's a little bit of irony there. And I think this comes to play, especially at the end, where she is, you know, frustrated. I don't know if that's the right word, but she's not on board with this idea of giving, say, a robotic fuzzy animal to older people who are in a home, so that when they stroke it, it vibrates or it meows or whatever, it purrs. You know, she says that's still a robot. You know, that's still a machine doing a person's job. You know, people need to come and visit the people in the homes. And then she says, when I'm in a room and I'm there, you know, just give me a CD player with the complete works of Jane Austen and just hit play. You know, I want to hear a human voice. But that's still a machine, isn't it? I mean, that's still sort of a that's not a real human. You know, there's no real conversation there because she cannot interact with the audio recording, right? Um, so there are moments of irony in this essay that I think Young is aware of and Young actually constructs. And what does that say about Young's stance towards Sherry Turkle? I am a professional editor. I'm an academician. I'm a professor, not a full-time professor anywhere. I actually prefer being part-time, but for the freedom that I have. But anyway, um, I feel almost that there is a frustration on Young's part. I'm guessing. I'm totally guessing here. I don't want to see this in your evaluations because I don't know how to prove it. But it's almost as if Turkle said to Young, I'll let you interview me as long as you mention my upcoming book and you mention a few of my previous titles. There's so much promotion here of Turkle's works. Did you notice that? And a conscientious and a professional interviewer that's really trying to focus on one topic is not going to bring in these plugs, these nods to work. It just kind of feels like there was a deal that was made that Turkle kind of played hardball and Jeffrey Young is pushing back a little bit in a very unique way by undercutting Turkle in the interview itself. Okay, again, I can't prove that. I don't really want to see, you know, this idea that Young was, that there was a deal made that she would do the interview if Young mentioned the books, her upcoming books. Don't put that in your evaluation because I don't know how to prove it. But I'm just saying this. That's how it feels to me, and that's almost as if Young is frustrated with the expectations of a professor. You know, you professor may be taking a stance that says I'm automatically smarter than you. This is how it is, and I'm not wrong. You know, and that's frustrating to any critical person. You know, to anybody that has a head on their shoulders and has a whole sense of self-identity and, you know, agency and humanness. You know, that's like, thank you very much. I'll look for someone else to talk with. So I don't know. But there is that tension that's there, right? And maybe if you mention the tension, because, you know, you don't have grounds to say that there was, you know, about what I just said with Young and the, you know, Turkle saying I won't do the interview unless you mention my books. Don't put that in the evaluation. But you certainly do have Turkle saying the seal is bad, that automatic pet is bad, but give me a CD player. Well, that's ironic. You have her saying, you know, don't send me text all the time, or don't be online all the time because that's bad for relationships, but yet she's willing to accept, you know, 30 emails a minute or whatever that is. You have to look at that. But, you know, so that's tension right there. You know, that's an undercutting of her position, you know, and Young is presenting that, and that's in the text, so you can bring that into your evaluation. Okay, so again, just a quick recap. This is an analysis paper. You need to have a summary and an evaluation. The evaluation needs to be it needs to be bigger than the summary because that's the heart of the essay. All right. If it were just summary, I would just say this is a summary essay. No, it's a critique. So you need the summary to get your reader up to speed. You can't assume that the reader has read that article, and then you can talk about it. That's your evaluation, and the summary plus the evaluation is the critique paper or the analysis paper or the response paper. It's going to get various names, but here in this class we call it the analysis paper, and I'm also calling it the critique paper. So, okay, you can do this, all right?